change my background. I think I had the same background for a minute.
What's your background right now, bro?
Ooh. Oh, there's Martin. He's in the clouds.
Oh,
All right. Mustafa over here. All right, cool. Okay, so we're on live. I'm just going to alert some more people to let them know that the show has started,
yup.
and then we'll start the startings. How
Year.
you doing, though? You good?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. Just enjoying this quarantine. Said no one ever.
Like, yo, honestly, I like to the least bit. I've been enjoying it just because it's like you get more time to yourself, more
That is
time to kind
very
of like work on yourself and the shit that you're like. Because everybody who wants to say like, yo, 2020 is my year, 2020 my
yeah.
year before 2020 happened, and then now you can't do shit all year. So it's like, okay, what are you doing within? What are you fixing within before you go back out in the world? And I think for me at least, I've been trying
Nah,
to do that. Work out a little bit, eat healthier.
I see you, bro. I see. And I was like, damn, bro. I'm sleeping. Like, what am I doing with my life, bro?
Bro, you married. So the first 2 years, 3 years, you have to get fat. And then you guys start working out together and do things together. And actually that shit could happen earlier than 2 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you at least now have a partner to work out with to get motivated with. So I know you and Savannah,
Yeah.
you guys are gonna probably start your own freaking workout channel and
I'm
shit like
dead.
Yogi and Sabs workout
Workout routine.
on some body break shit. You know what I mean?
Nah, but you're right though. It's I would say it's definitely like a good time, like you said, to look within or just work on something you feel like you need to like make better. It's a great time. There's no pressure from anywhere, as far as work goes and like getting stuff done. It's more like, yo, whatever comes your way, you try to do it and knock it out. But for the most part, it's like a super chill vibe.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
mind.
yeah, I think we should get started on the show and then get into some more conversation. But hi, everybody, welcome back to Meet the Beat. You know how we do every Friday. We come here. It's a safe space where we talk about music, the industry, production specifically, and then also dive into a little interview with some of my niggas. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
told you before, anybody I invite on my show, they my nigga. We've either worked together, built together, smoked together, slam chicks together. Not me and Yogi. I don't want to get Yogi in trouble. But I'm not trying to get Yogi in the
Yeah.
hot water. But nah, but like, anybody that's on the show is like I built with, and I see their musical talent, and they're also guys that are representing the city on a large scale. So I always want to feature, whether it's Toronto producers or just producers that have that connection to our city.
Mhm.
Just because it's Toronto everything, Toronto or die.
Absolutely.
And we have my man Martine doing the moderating. We're actually doing it from the same place, you know what I mean? Because now we've increased the bubble to 10 more than 10 people now or something like that. I don't know if that's the case. If not, then I probably already have corona. But yeah, like now we're kind of doing it in the same space. Maybe we seeing if this works out a little bit easier rather than do it from across the city.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we have our guest today, Yogi the producer, man. Give it up for Yogi. Yeah.
Sir. Hey.
We
Thanks
need the
for
applause.
having me.
Next time, let's get the applause sound effect. We need that
Yeah,
on deck,
yeah. You need that soundboard, bro.
right? I'm trying to learn everything from the Joe Budden podcast. But
Yeah.
basically, get all those different sound effects. You get a little soundboard, and then
And
it feels
I
official, you know.
yeah, of course. You gotta have the soundboard, bro. You need a soundboard, them kind of things.
Definitely need a nya a. Like if there's no nya a, it's not.
Come on, what are you
Hey,
doing?
are you even Toronto, bro?
Yo, facts.
Need a yo.
Yo.
You need a differently button too, like when you're
Yeah,
about to debate, but
yeah.
differently still, guy.
More times.
More time. Fuck, man. Toronto lingo is so like it's crazy to me how out of one time, and you could probably attest to this. At one time, it was like we were the only ones. That's Martin. I think you should aim the mic away.
Yo, I'm still hearing
I think after 14 shows, we're still trying to learn technical difficulties with this shit, or we're still trying to iron this shit out.
it.
There You might have to mute.
Just stop,
Just
bro.
unmute.
Yeah, mute it.
Yeah, you gotta mute that. Just take the mic out. You don't talk that much, anyways.
I'm dead.
You could just be a face, just like, hey, hi.
I'm on.
Yeah, but I was saying, like, it's just interesting to me how much Toronto has progressed over the last 2 decades, and like
Mm,
it's starting from 2000, where like you had Chaclair
mhm.
and Cardinal and all those guys kind of doing it and making waves on the underground scene, and then Cardi making it more mainstream. And then, like, Cardi was like, we had Cardi on a couple episodes, or maybe like a ton of episodes ago, but we had Solitaire on last week,
Sick, sick.
and he produced that song Bacardi Slang, where
Mhm,
where Cardi's talking about Toronto lingo, and we
mhm.
say this, we say that. And I remember watching that on BET, and debuted as a new joint, and the American niggas saying, yeah, like, nah, we don't fuck with that, we don't say that shit, da 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 da. Fast forward to now, you go to New York, it's just like, it's almost like they're dying to speak the Toronto patois. Like,
Yeah.
how from your perspective, from a person coming from the Caribbean over here, how has that change look to you? Like,
Bro, honestly, like I think for one, it's super infectious. Like once you come here, I mean, before I came to Toronto, when I first moved to Canada, bro, I moved to Halifax. So it's like
yeah,
you're not getting any influence from Toronto. But again, I moved there, and once I came to Toronto, like once I started, going out and hitting studio sessions and connecting with people who are from Toronto, I couldn't help it, bro. It just happened naturally, and like just seeing how it happened too, like the impact it's having, like you said, through people like Cardi, and then you have obviously like people like Drake who pushed the lingo as well, and
of
every
course,
artist from
100%.
Toronto, basically, like
Yeah,
it happens a lot. And then the funny thing is, what was it, Sav was saying, like every time she goes like to the US or whatever, they're like, yo, you have an accent, and she's always like teaching them like Toronto lingo and shit, you know what I'm saying?
hmm because it's like now they want to learn it.
Yeah,
And it's like, I guess it took like a world, like us having a world famous artist to
yeah,
kind of like make that happen.
that's facts.
And, like, and I always feel like when it comes to any kind of music, like it takes a popular artist to kind of usher it in. So then
Yeah.
the guys on the underground, like, they've always been doing it, but it's like now it like now you see the rush. It's almost like it's like that mainstream person breaks that down, and
Mm-hmm.
then a whole wave starts rushing in, right?
That's
And I
fact.
think like that was Drake, and then after that, then you got Tory, and then you even
Hmm.
got guys that aren't even really from Caribbean descent using the lingo, and
Hmm.
it just seems normal because they're from Toronto, right? It's just
Exactly, exactly. It's now become like a Toronto language versus like, oh, you're from the Caribbean, so probably that's why you speak like that. It's like,
right.
oh,
I remember somebody told me, like, actually I know who it was. It was Chasing Cash. I don't
hmm,
know if
yeah,
producer Chasing Cash.
yeah.
So I remember me and him had a conversation. We was at the studio, and he's just like, yeah, man, I just came from Lost and Found, that club Lost and Found. Like, man, you guys, your bitches are whack, man. Like, they're whack. I'm like, what do you mean they're whack? He's like, yeah, like, like they just posing. Like, a lot of people up here, like, it's almost like they want to be niggas, but like they're not niggas, they're islanders. I'm like, what do you mean by islanders? Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
like
yeah, like, you guys are like niggas, but with like an island vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, all right, bro. I love just hearing Americans talk about things
yeah,
outside their scope.
yeah, yeah.
Like, because I feel like as a Canadian, you kind of have a better view of the world, because it's like it's not through like brainwash media. You at least get to
Hmm.
like, and because we're not like, you know Canadians through and through. If we're gonna talk
Exactly.
about, if we say we're Canadian, we're usually saying our
Yeah,
descent,
yeah,
or our place
yeah.
of descent, or where our background is first before we're Canadian,
That's a
right?
fact.
Whereas Americans, you're American first before anything, right?
That's it.
So
There's
it's just interesting to hear their take on. It's like, yeah, yeah, you niggas up there are islanders. I'm like, nigga, I'm a continenter. I'm from
yeah,
Africa, but okay,
exactly.
cool. I'm like,
Nah,
all right.
you're right though. Like when you really think of Toronto, like it's that conversation comes up all the time where it's like, yo, Toronto is literally a melting pot of like so many different cultures, bro. So many different countries. Like, obviously a lot of Caribbean, but like you're saying, Africa, like there's so many like Africans who actually live in Toronto. And that's
Yep.
how why you have all these different things happening. I feel like bro, honestly, as a black man in Toronto, I could never feel out of place because there are just so many people I could relate to, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just very multicultural. You
Mhm.
said like when you first came here to Canada, you went to Halifax, and
Yep.
from what I know about Halifax, it's pretty racist out there. Like it has
Absolutely.
a very stringent history. Like when we go back and talk about like just the history of slavery in Canada, you
Mhm,
know what I mean? That's
mhm.
it's one of the places you could point to in terms of what happened with Africville and
Yeah.
how they moved out to North Preston and all those places. So
Yeah.
how were you received, or like how was life over there as a young black man coming into Halifax?
Man, you know what? It wasn't, I would say like I didn't experience any like straight up racism, but you could tell like you could in certain areas and certain things you could get the hint of it if you know
Yeah,
Wagwan, if like
you
uh
could be oblivious to it.
exactly.
Yeah,
I've like for example, there's like nights we go out, let's say, and them times I link with KO out there, let's
yep.
say we
Shout
would
out
go
KO,
clubbing.
by the way.
Yeah, shout out KO, my dog. um we would go clubbing, and then we know like once you leave the club, there's a very small chance of a taxi driver stopping for you, like
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So we know that it like they'll never stop for you for sure. Two
yeah,
black dudes, come on now,
yeah.
they ain't stopping.
They think you trying to run away with that fucking taxi.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like that type of stuff. And then we'd notice, like, let's say if we were friends, like female friends, then they would stop or something, like, or like
Mm.
white female friends that, or white male friends too, you
So you
know?
always got to keep a snow bunny on deck. See,
Exactly.
see, black women. It's not just because we love white women. It's because we need them to get to certain. It's like like an entry card to a
Yeah.
country club. You know what I mean? Like sometimes
Like, well, yeah,
sometimes the white shorty will just make everything all right. If anything, the police will probably ask, "Are you okay? Are they
yeah.
hurting you? Wink twice if you're being
If you're in danger.
Right. You know what I mean?
Nah, but it was cool. Like like I said, it wasn't too crazy. I went to school out there. Like I think I was the only black dude in my class. Like when I went to, because I went out there and I studied audio engineering there.
Okay.
And my school was pretty small. It was a college, so like I was the only black dude in my class. And then obviously throughout the city you'll meet black people, and because it was a very big population of like university students and all that type of stuff. St. Mary specifically
Yeah.
always had a lot of Caribbean students, so the
Mm,
Bahamas, St. Lucia, all that type of stuff. And obviously my brother was out there too. So
okay.
like it wasn't too much of a drastic change for me because I had family out there.
Yeah.
So it was kind of easier to adjust.
Transition.
And exactly. And but nah, it's, you could tell, people would cross the street, like late night after the club. If the good thing is, a lot of the times we could walk home from the club, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So what would happen is, like, yeah, say if we're walking home and somebody's, on the same side of the street, they'll probably cross,
Yeah.
especially if you're a black man alone walking towards them.
And I feel like that's a distinct kind of thing that when people say like racism doesn't exist or like
Mhm.
this or that, I'm just like, bro, like especially if I'm talking to like a white person or like a white friend or whatever, and like I'm trying to make them understand. I'm like, yo, bro, people don't ever cross the street because they're afraid of you. Like they don't ever, like they don't do that for you. I've witnessed it. I've felt women like I've seen women clutch their purse. Like it's kind of that feeling where it's just like, wow, like this is. It almost feels like you have ultimate power. Like you could just scare them at any moment. They're like, oh
Like,
my
"Hey."
god. They're like, gotcha. You know what I mean? Like I kind of want to do that sometimes. I think I've seen that on like a Dave Chappelle skit or
Yeah,
something like
yeah. He goes,
that.
gotcha.
But it's just like, that's the realism of it. And it's crazy because it's like going to Halifax, maybe what was it last year? I think I went there on for a remix project and stuff
Yes,
like
yes,
that.
I remember
It was like my man Belly, who's his dad is like the mayor of North Preston,
that.
Pootie and shit like that. Like he brought us to that I can't remember what it's called, but it's in I think it's in Cherry, is it Cherry Brook or something like that? The black kind of museum, black
Oh,
Canadian museum.
I don't know the name, but I feel like I know
But
what you're talking
but
about.
you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right? Where you go into the hall and you see all these
Yes.
historical black Canadians and stuff like that. And it really like it really made me think. Like I was just like, bro, I never learned none of this shit in school.
Hmm.
These are the kind of things that can help empower people. when
Yeah.
they know that they have some kind of history here, and even if it's not directly lineage history to African or necessarily Caribbean, it's just like understanding that blacks were here in Canada doing things and making movements and stuff. Like I think that's very important in school in Halifax. Were you ever even like taught like surface level of that shit? Like, did they ever touch on that shit?
In Halifax, while I was in school,
Yeah.
nah. To
No.
be honest, I mean, on top of the fact that it was like an audio school, like it
Yeah.
wasn't even like that those types of things never came up, or you know, I had friends who were like originally like deep into like Halifax, like black friends as well.
Yeah.
Um, One of my friends, her name is Shantae Grant. She's like a poet out there,
Okay.
and she knows a lot about the history. And like sometimes when we talk, she tell me about Africville, and even in her
Mhm.
poems out here talking about Africville and how it used to be before the government came and they started basically tearing it down and blah blah blah, whatever it is. But aside from that, no. Like a lot of the information I ended up getting was just based on my own research or like talking to people who are like from there, like knowing about North Preston and stuff.
Yeah.
I dated a girl, when I first moved to Halifax, that I think she lived out there or her family lived out there or something. And her
Mhm.
her grandmother or her great grandmother was like a slave, like basically. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
It's not too far removed, and that's
Mhm.
the crazy thing, man. You go back just a couple centuries ago, not even a century ago,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's like
bad.
the slavery shit is like right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro.
It's
It's
crazy.
not far off at all.
So when you went to Halifax for audio, you went for audio engineering.
Yeah, yeah.
So when okay, let's track back then. When did you develop your love for production?
Um, man, I would say like once I started learning music, which would have been like my mom got me into piano classes early, like from 5 years old. I was like in piano classes. Um, and then from there, obviously, like I started learning about music and learning of music and playing and what I could do with it. And then once I was off and on with the piano classes, but I would say around it was around the age of maybe 14 or so. Um a friend of mine, like one day we are chilling, I can't remember how it came up, but I seen him using Fruity Loops.
Yep.
And I was like, yo, what is that? He was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, yeah, this is this thing called Fruity Loops, and he's making beats. And I'm like, all right, cool. So even at that point, I wasn't too like, oh, I want to do this type thing. I just thought it was interesting. And because I played piano and I was into music,
Yeah.
I found it interesting. So it was around that age I kind of like there's a little spark, if we must say. And then as I got older, like once I got into high school, I really started messing around with it. There's this production group called what's it 758 Studio 758 or something like that. Basically,
Yeah.
they were doing a lot of like soca music, and I was like, yo, these guys are dope, like making music and working with artists and putting it out, and I just like that whole vibe. So I started like getting into it more and more, and that's kind of where it started. And obviously, like we all go through those things where it's like you try it for a bit, you get tired of it, you stop because you're not good, you're trash, and then you get discouraged, and then you're off and on with it type thing. And then yeah, I would say that's kind of where it started for me. And then over the years, like things happen, you meet people. And then when I initially started music, like production, and really started taking serious, I was making like soca and dancehall. That was it. I wasn't even making like R&B and hip hop and shit.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, coming out of St. Lucia, like, I guess the dominant form of music would be soca. Um,
Exactly.
and what was like the scene, like the soca scene, like were there burgeoning artists that you kind of like messed with? Were you part of that scene over there before you came over here? Like, how was it like?
Absolutely. There were like a couple artists that I mess with. There's C Dale, who is like all these are all like soca artists. C Dale, this guy named Orion,
Okay.
um, this guy named Private Six. And there are other artists that like I did want to work with while I was down there, but like I didn't I would say at the time my skills were picking up.
Yeah,
I
you were
wasn't
still
into
learning.
it exactly. And so it wasn't like I wasn't at that point yet where they could be like, yo, let's get in studio type thing. You know what I mean? So there were just certain artists like this guy named Teddyson John, who actually like he's been going crazy the last couple of years. He had this one song that like kind of blew up. It's called Ale. And I remember like it playing everywhere. And especially when I hear like St. Lucia and soca music up here, I'm like, oh, this is dope. Like I love this. I love hearing stuff from back home. And yeah, those are like some of the artists that I was kind of like working with down there. And yeah, it's like I got a bit of time dabbling in the soca vibe down there, but I wouldn't say it got to a point where I was really like, making crazy waves with it down there. I just, got to experience it and work with a bunch of artists. And I did put out songs with them and stuff, but it never really like took off as I would have wanted to.
Maybe this is kind of fast forwarding, but like, do you see yourself kind of like going back into that realm, kind of like not to say that you haven't been producing soca right
Yeah.
now. I'm not fully aware, but do you see yourself kind of like going back and tapping into that zone like that of soca? Are you or do you feel like and I know you're versatile, like you're a multi instrumentalist. You like you can do a lot of stuff, but do you feel more comfortable in the hip hop zone, in the hip hop R&B zone? Would you want to venture back into soca? Like how is your vibes right now in terms of that?
Um, I'm pretty open with it. Like if somebody like artists from back home, soca artists from back home hit me up and be like, yo, I got this idea. I think, I'd love to try out with you, blah, blah, blah. I'll be like, absolutely, like, let's do it. And even like in like recent times with as far as the soca stuff, it may not be straight on soca beat, but I'll be pulling the influences of the soca into it,
Mhm.
right?
Like some fusion shit.
Exactly. So there's
I feel,
times
I,
that,
I feel like that's we're in that time now where it's like we've done every genre to death, and all there is fusion now.
exactly,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like all there is just mixing shit up. Like what can you make? Like who's making something new? Like you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like the only new is just like fusing different
Fusion.
kind of vibes together, and then the
Yeah,
vessel you
man.
you push it through. You know?
You're right about that. It's like everything is all about fusion, and a lot of these sounds they've been just developing and changing over time, and it's a result of the fusion stuff. Like sometimes, like I would say the last couple sessions I had with like Wonder, for example, we legit sat down and said, "Yo, let's make a soca beat," and then yeah, where it's directed by the soca influence, but it's not straight up a soca beat.
Yeah.
It's just taking the tempo maybe, or like the rhythm of the drums, and then building something around that, like you said, creating a new vibe or fusion, and then coming up with some dope shit. But yeah, I would definitely like go back into it and try to see what I could come up with that's new, and a new fusion, if you must.
Right. We got some people in the comments. Caribbean music is already fusion. Yeah, like that's what basically what I'm saying. Like everything has been fusion since friggin' blues and country and like like since the earlier times after sheet music. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing, hip hop probably is like the newest form of music. Just
Hmm.
because it's like even though there was like, there was people doing poetry with music and stuff like that, like the where it came from
Yeah,
had
yeah.
never been seen in music before, right? Like there was niggas singing from about the ghetto and shit like that, but it was never from a place of the youth in the
Hmm.
ghetto, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what hip hop represented. And I feel like that's the last kind of original form of music. I don't,
Hmm.
I, I don't know. I could be wrong,
No,
but like I don't know. Like there's no other genre that kind of came and made a wave after it. Like hip hop still has it now. Hip hop is kind of like this might be like a little meta or like inceptionist, but how Atlanta has ran shit in hip hop for that long, I feel like hip hop is that Atlanta in the bigger sphere of music genres now, right?
yeah.
Like it's like we took it and we never let it go. Once it
That's
came in the
what
90s, it just took some time for it to get to that level where it's like
developing.
recognized, seen, where
Hmm.
it's accessible by everybody. And
Yeah,
now it's like it's not going nowhere. Like it's not you
that's
know
a
what I mean?
fact.
Same with R&B too, but
Yeah.
even more so hip hop, just because hip hop is just makes a lot more of a difference, I think,
Yeah.
in the way people move in the world, like
Hmm.
politicians and all that kind of shit.
That's true. And a lot, even the R&B now, and even like let's say like what we would call like pop music, I guess,
Yeah.
is influenced by hip hop. Like if you listen to a lot of the R&B joints that are coming out, the Summer Walkers, all these things, the drums, the vibe, like even the cadences of a lot of the singers, the R&B singers are like super influenced by hip hop, So it
Yep.
just goes to show, and to add to your point, how like influential hip hop actually is, in the fact that it's still like heavily a part of R&B and almost every other genre out there at some way, shape or form.
Right. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's why I love being in the genre the most. I love being born in this time where it's like we get to experience one like change in technology that's been more major than anything, and then changes in music, and then lastly changes in our music culture up here, right?
Hmm.
Because say we're born 20 years earlier, we just don't we're not understanding the change of shit, right? Like we're not under. Maybe if we're 40 we can understand the change
Yeah.
because we've seen hip-hop game, but you're born 50 you're born if you're 50 years old right now, you don't really understand how significant this change is unless you've been in the music industry for so long
That time,
in
yeah.
the urban world. And then when you're young, it's like you don't really appreciate how much has changed because you're just like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
when you're born, by the time you're 10 years old, Drake is the most famous guy on earth. So
Yeah,
it's like
nah, you ain't
you know
in.
you haven't seen the come up, right? So it's like I sometimes sit back and appreciate being born in this time, and then
Hmm.
being in the city in this time is just, and then the Raptors win a championship. It's
Come on
just
now.
so good. It's so good.
Yo, no, that's facts. Still, I definitely feel you on that. Like, I think we're born in a time where we're experiencing a lot of change really quickly, like technologically, musically, everything. Like, I grew up, experiencing having to use a tape and trying to record songs off of the radio when it's playing so I could listen back, when I want to,
Yeah.
I grew up on, my brother like ordering like, speakers and putting in my mom's whip so, you could have the loudest like speaker system in a car, you know what I'm saying? And I still got to experience a Walkman and this, the CD, all these kind of
Right.
things. Film cameras, camcorders, like it's like we got to experience all the old stuff as well as transition into the new, the new
Right.
age. I remember like once I started getting interested in Fruity Loops, mans were still on dial-up. So
Yep.
imagine having to download Fruity Loops, which at that point, like let's say it was maybe 20 megabytes, bro. 20 megabytes takes hours to download on on dial-up, right? So
Nowadays 20 megabytes is like it goes by in less than a millisecond when you're on
bro,
Instagram. It's like
that's the
it's like
average size of a
it's like 100 megabytes just to go on Instagram. It's like money now. It's like, yo, you need 100 megabytes to get in this club, bro. It's
yeah,
like, yo, yeah, I got that. The economy's better.
now you're right. Like if you really think about these things, like, and I used to download FL
Yep.
and then spend maybe a few hours in it, bro, and delete it because I'm like, yo, this is trash. I'm not good at this. Like I don't know what I'm doing. But
Right.
yeah, the technology again came such a long way, and getting to experience, Instagram and Twitch and all these instant things. I think people who are born into this, new technological era or age, it's like they expect everything to be instant, and it's just they expect different things. But I feel like, kind of got a good balance of everything where we know how to like blend the two and use technology and
Right.
just old school vibes.
Right. And
Hey, Aaron.
that was my millennial praise moment. Like, just
Yeah,
love for all the millennials in this chat right now. Big
yeah.
ups to us, man,
Big
because
up.
we got it rough. We've been through a lot of recessions, and
I'm telling you, bro.
we probably can't afford houses on 9 to 5 jobs. So we have to praise ourselves on something. If not,
Yeah,
then it's all downhill.
it's a
Um,
fact, bro.
right. Um, when you came here, which school did you go to for audio recording? Was it Nimbus?
No, so when I came to Toronto, at that point, I was already
Oh wait,
done.
Nimbus is Vancouver. Sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Read that.
it is Vancouver.
Yeah,
But no, once I was done school in Halifax, I actually moved to Toronto,
yeah. Okay.
and then once I moved there, it was just like straight up going to work and starting to like make connections, etc.
Okay. 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 When when you're audio engineering, what lessons from production do you incorporate in there? Like what do you fuse from your knowledge of production into the world
Hmm.
of engineering?
I would say like I guess figuring out a space for the artist, you
Yeah.
know, like um I feel like when I produce when I make beats now, um I think about the recording process after and be like, yo, I can't really go too crazy with the production because at some point somebody's gonna need to sing or rap on this, and I need to, create that space. And obviously, like when I'm making beats too, another thing is like balance, like
Yeah.
because when you make beats, it's all about the balance of the sounds. When I go to actually record, I'm already like preemptively like thinking about where the vocals could sit and how loud or soft they need to be, and it's kind of like you start pre-mixing the record before you even before you even start getting into that part of it. I don't know. I think that's like one of the main things, and maybe like arrangement of songs,
Yeah.
because when you're making beats, you kind of like arrange it as you make it. You get your intro, your hook, your verse, whatever it is, and knowing what sounds to take out and what sounds